What's going on, guys? Welcome back to episode 3 of the Keep Climbing podcast here. I've got a special guest with me today. First guest that I've had on, true guest, honestly. Jacob Turner. Thanks for coming in and joining me today, man.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. It's fun to think about the journey that we've had as friends, to teammates, to business owners, to podcasting.
Yeah, to podcasting. Yeah, that's kind of where I wanted to start. Honestly, I maybe talk a little bit like where our paths crossed. You know, like I played with your brother first. You know, I knew Ben first. Played with your brother Ben and Mizzou, and then we'd worked out maybe a little bit here and there together, and then played together in Miami. So I just kind of want to talk about maybe like since then what that journey's looked like for you. After we played together in Miami, what that journey for you through baseball. You went and spent some time in Korea,
yep.
Right? And maybe some of your decision, like getting out of baseball, and then what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I guess in 2018 we played together in Miami, and obviously even that was a weird year. I made the team out of camp, and then I think I got designated 2 weeks into the season. So like just an epitome of like my baseball journey in general. You never know what's going to happen next. Ended up having a super fun ending of that year. Played with Detroit, which was cool, which is a team I got drafted by. So to go back and see all those people that you had known and see them like have moved up in the organization was cool. As you mentioned, that last year in 2019 that I played, I went over to South Korea, which was a challenging decision. I mean, I have 4 kids now. At the time I had 3 kids, leaving my wife to go over there to play, but I felt like it was a great opportunity. I was trying some new things. I was doing anything in my power to learn to strike guys out. And felt like, okay, I'm going to go over here and pitch and see what happens. But to your point, I went over there. I mean, I enjoyed the time, but didn't perform as well as I would have liked. And just felt like I knew when I got on the plane going home from South Korea at the end of the season, I knew I was done. My heart just was not in the day-to-day that it takes to play at that level.
Yeah. Dude, I know that we've talked about this off record before plenty too, you know. I feel like that's exactly where my head got to too, you know, and really I think a lot of the guys that I've talked to, you know, and both you and I like still like fairly young, you know, but
yep.
and probably physically like able to continue to do it. There's just so much that I think that the common fan, you know, maybe doesn't understand about the lifestyle or the, you know, whatever have you, you know, that and how much of a grind that can be mentally,
mm-hmm.
you know, for the player. That ultimately I got to the point where I just felt like I was kind of steered me in a different direction.
Yeah.
And you know, I wasn't going to fight it, you know, like all the stuff we're doing, you know, at Premier Pitching right now, and kind of some of the business stuff. I'd always kind of had that entrepreneur type of mindset, had, you know, poked around in different ways, you know. Mm-hmm. So is that something that you felt like you had aspirations for, like even at that time, or is that something that now baseball's done, what am I going to do?
I don't know. I mean, I think to touch on your point, one of the reasons why I felt like I knew it was the right time probably goes back to like everything that you guys do, even at Premier Pitching with data. I was able to see, okay, well, I'm leaving no stone unturned. So I felt confident. Like I had gone to some of the other pitching gurus and been like, okay, I need to get my spin rate up. I need to figure out how to get more vertical break. Again, do something to get more strikeouts. Like that was the thing that I struggled with. That was the thing that was going to be able to take me kind of back to the big leagues and be able to stay, is what I felt like. And for me, I was comfortable walking away because I knew I'd done everything I could do. Like there was just certain God-given things like I did not have the ability to do that some other guys did. And those things were higher value than what I could do. But to your point about the entrepreneurship stuff, I think baseball and sports in general, I didn't quite realize like we played a team game for so long, but at the same time, it was an individual game. Like for me and you as pitchers, you're going into the field, you're doing your own thing, you know, you're trying to find a catch partner that's willing to do the thing that you want to do that day.
Undervalued.
Super undervalued, super undervalued. And I think I didn't quite realize as an athlete, you kind of had that entrepreneurial drive already.
Yeah. I mean, we were just talking before this, personal brand wise, you know, like I think if we agreed on that off the record as well, you know, like if I took that maybe entrepreneur mindset earlier in my career, you know, took the reins on some of those things, I feel like it'd probably help me a little bit, you know, out in life now, these days. That's kind of my next question for you too. What do you feel like is, you know, what's the one thing that baseball really helped kind of prepare you for in your life now? You know.
I think for me, so my journey was like somewhat unique in the standpoint that I was the 9th pick overall. I was maybe a top 10 prospect in all baseball after my first year. Did really well. Got to the big leagues at 20. So for all intents and purposes, I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to play here for the next 10 to 15 years. And it did not work out like that. It was a ton of ups and downs. I think the one thing that it taught me was you need to have a healthy sense. You need to have a healthy paranoia around the fact that it could all go away tomorrow. And I think it's the same way in sports as it is business. Just when you think it's going really good and you feel like you've reached the crescendo of the mountain, just understanding that you have to keep your foot on the gas. It's something that I talk to young athletes about a lot, and I'm sure you guys do it too. Just because you've reached that next hurdle, if you're a pitcher and you get to the 90-mile-an-hour hurdle, or you get to a certain spin rate, or you finally solve the breaking ball, or you finally solve your command, understanding that like that's just one step in the process, and if you don't keep your foot on the gas, somebody else is going to pass you.
Yeah. So basically, my answer to that, the biggest thing that I think baseball's helped me with, is learning how to deal with failure in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I think that everybody in baseball is pretty unique. It's unique like how they go through it, but at some point, if you play baseball for long enough, no matter if you're the 9th pick overall, if you're the 101st pick overall, if you're the dead last like pick overall, like you're gonna go through adversity like at some point. And really, I do think that that's true, just about like life in general. Like I think that as you get older, like you just become more aware of adversity, that it's coming, it's inevitable. And I think the right way to go about it is to try to have that awareness and develop like a strategy to overcome it. Now way easier said than done, obviously, right? Like you can have a plan, but like what's your plan when you get punched in the face, like type of mentality, right? But I would say like the number one thing that baseball really helped me mentally prepare for my life after baseball is how to deal with adversity. And I want your thoughts on this, but like my way that I would go about doing that now, like when I was playing versus now, is very different. Because while I played, I would lean heavily on my routine, right? Like if I'm struggling in something now, 30,000 foot view, I would say that's my same answer now, right? Like I lean heavily on like my routine and like things that ground me, my faith, my own like exercise and fitness, my family, and the overall theory of just like having this attitude, like I don't care what it takes, I'll get it done. Whatever we got to do, I'll get it done. And that was, those are the main bullet points like that I would also point back to and say like I did well during my baseball career. But obviously, the more you zoom into that, it looks very different to do that. The next day after a bad start, your brain's going 1,000 miles an hour on what I need to do better or whatever, like just self-evaluating. And the only way I found to have like success, or at least calm that, inner voice and not hit the panic button, and how to get from that game to the next game, and eliminate that amount of time where you feel bad, or you're feeling like either less confidence or whatever you want to call it. But basically just have a very scripted routine of like, and I got to the point to where this is kind of what I've shared with some players around here too, is that like no matter how today's game goes, I've got such a dialed in routine on a day-to-day basis from the time I show up to the field to the time I freaking leave, that when I show up tomorrow, I'm going to do this, and this in this exact order, whether I throw 7 shutty with 10 punchies today, or I get my, teeth kicked in the second inning, so I don't know, and I feel like that's probably something that's probably pretty synonymous, for successful baseball players, but what are some ways that you found success in handling adversity?
I think it's challenging though too. I feel like for me, one of the things I really struggled with was showing up to the field every day as the same person. And what I mean by that is, yes, I could do the same things. I would go to the gym. Like I never felt like I was lacking for working hard or like sticking to the routine. But one thing that I always struggled with was like in a team game like that, you just feel terrible as a starting pitcher when you go out there and you go 3 innings and give up 6 runs. team loses, everybody's down, and you roll in the next day, you're just like, it's still in the back of your head. You just thought about it all night. Like, if you didn't, you're lying. You thought about it all night.
You too much a competitor not to.
Yeah, you woke up in the morning, you felt bad about it.
But the same thing would be true of you, like, now, right? Like, like with what you're doing. If you had, like, one day where it was like, man, I just didn't get it done and I let my team down, because that's how a starting pitcher feels, right? You feel like you just let the team down, and like personally, just sucked, and now I gotta wait 5 or 6 or 4 days, however many days till I get to like do it again. Luckily now you get to show up the next day and like
I think that's
get
the
right
other
back
thing,
to it.
But like you kind of get that like out of the bullpen, but there's no better feeling in the world as a starting pitcher. You go 7 shutout, you punch out 10, and you're just watching the game the next day. You get your work in, you're watching the game. It's like that's the best 3 hours of the day right there. Like there's no worse feeling than going 3 and giving up 6 and then watching the game and being like, oh, I can't believe we gave 3 hits to that guy, or I can't believe that guy took me deep.
Yeah, right.
I don't know though, for me though, with entrepreneurship and business now, I don't feel near the stress I felt as when I was playing, and that's probably just like some of that is you put that on yourself at the end of the day, right? You feel like you can do better, and it's not happening over and over and over again.
I mean, tell me what you think about this. I've felt that exact same thing this past year, but it just feels like more of what my day-to-day involves. I just have way more control over.
I would agree. I don't know about for you, but for me, I feel like in business, I have more control over what the end outcome is going to be based on what my actions are versus what I did in sports. Sure. And like an example would be, let's say you and I both have the same routine, same 5-day routine. You have a bad start, you go through your same routine, you work your butt off. That does not mean the next time you go out there, you're not going to get your teeth kicked in.
Absolutely.
Same thing's true for business, but I do feel like more often than not, you're going to fail less if you have a really good routine in business. And maybe that's because it could be that we were playing at a level of competition that is the elite of there's no higher competition level. So the people that you're competing against on a daily basis are at that level too.
Right.
But for whatever reason, it feels like, and I mean, my career was full of struggles. I mean, I had more struggles than I had successes. So I think that was the biggest challenge is, how do I keep bouncing back? This doesn't happen one time. This happened 3 times. It's happened 5 times. It's happened 7 times.
Right. Well, what ways, if any, would you feel like what were the only ways to create that success for you? Like what ways did you find to be successful handling adversity like that? And obviously we know the end outcome. We know the end outcome when you go into Korea and the story that you just like told here. So. I mean, I that's kind of like what I preface a lot of the stuff to the pitchers that run through here. It's like, hey, look, man, like I've done some things good, I've done some things pretty bad, and it's not like I had it figured out because I'd still be playing. I'm 30 years old. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but I can tell you from what I've seen be successful. I can tell you from times when I've experienced success in my own career, and really just being shoulder to shoulder with some of the best players in the world, maybe to ever exist. At certain instances that. Like, this is what this dude like would show up and say, and it was like, it's hard to repeat, and obviously if it was that easy, then more people would be doing it. But what are some ways that you've seen or heard or experienced be successful with handling it?
To your point, I think the number one thing is just creating that routine, that process, because that's what gives you the confidence to go back out there when you have the bad outing. You know that, okay, if I do these next 5 things, I'm going to put myself in a position to succeed. And that's really all you're trying to do. You're trying to build that muscle of confidence, and then the next time you walk on the mound, you feel like you're the best player in the world. Yeah. And like that's all you.
Skill based though, it can be so challenging too, because it's not like, like if you ask me, Brett, how many times could you bench press whatever? I'd be like, heck, I could do it this many times. You'd be like, go prove it. I'd be like, heck yeah, I'm the man. I do this every week, right? But when someone is like got a bat coming back at like no one's coming to get me. No one's fighting me, out there to do it.
Well,
like there's no competition to it. So like if you do X, you get Y, and that's kind of what you're trying to say. Yeah. I feel like, and what I've felt too, of business wise, lifestyle wise, post baseball, it seems like a little bit more linear maybe when there's competitors out there, but it's not like my entire success or failure of my day revolves around and me being able to throw that pitch to that guy, and then there being like a certain amount of luck that happens. I could beat this guy, break his bat, fillets to third baseman's head and standing on second with double and there's nobody out. It's like, well, there's nothing I can really do about that, you know. So it just seems like all more linear now for me.
I think the challenge too, I don't know if you felt like this, but we probably both played with guys. I can think of a couple of guys that had unbelievable talent. Because they had such unbelievable talent, the work ethic that they put in between starts wasn't near what you were doing between starts. And you're thinking, man, like, my 2 + 2 is adding up to 1, and he's 0 + 0 is adding up to 5. I'm like, how is that happening?
Yeah.
And then every time it's like, okay, well, like, he had another great start, and you know, not that you're rooting against anybody, but it's hard to see when you're, dude, I'm doing everything I can possibly do, and it is not working. And this guy just played catch a couple times, and he just went out and punched out 12.
And it happens every single week, and you get very tired of seeing it.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Yeah. What would you consider as adversity, like in your life now, in your life, relationships, business? You know, like what does Jacob Turner view as adversity these days?
I would say the adversity that I face is different because I'm viewing it from the lens of I have 4 kids, I have a wife. Those are the people that are the most important to me in my life, and what happens in my business is great, but it doesn't generally affect my emotions, not near like baseball affected my emotions. I mean, I told my wife the other day, I'm happier now than when I was in the big leagues, which would sound crazy to somebody, sound crazy to anybody out there that's trying to get to the big leagues. I get it, but I'm happier now. And I don't know if I can really pinpoint it other than the fact that I'm super routine oriented. I know that if I put in the work day in and day out, my 2 + 2 might not always equal 4, but it's probably not going to equal 1. Versus in baseball, I could end up with a negative score, is what it seems like.
No doubt.
So I think your point about it being a little bit more linear has helped with that adversity.
Yeah, the some of the things, you know, like I'm a very competitive person, as I know you are too. I almost like have to fabricate competition at times, like for motivation, you know, or you know, discipline. And you know, I tweet social media about that a lot because that's something that's just important to me, something I think that's other people have kind of laid on me and made a big impact on me on, and I have known and seen the byproducts of it like in my own life. But you know, the sales aspect maybe of what I'm doing, you know, the wins that we have, I think that you know, getting a new player in, getting to see them have success from the system and process that we have in place, and them getting to see or getting the outcome that they're desiring, you know, is like a big win for us. Getting to see a team, although we're just maybe doing some baseline assessment, like testing for a team, and getting to watch them, like Duke University this year, like be nationally ranked and do extremely well, and like really we're 1,000 miles away. They've implemented it and done such a fantastic job, and to be such a small piece of it, you know, of us, and really even truly me. Like, I wasn't on campus, I didn't write any of those programs, you know, all these guys did. They did a great job, but to see little wins like that, you know, but like, you know, the opposite way, you know, like the alternative to that, you know, like adversity that I would see would be, you know, how do you view those losses? What are you measuring? I think is like what we talk about a lot in our business, and what we're measuring to, you know, track those wins and losses. We're a very data oriented business, obviously, and we're getting more and more that way on the business side of the ball for us as well, no pun intended. And you know, to see those things and see how they evolve, to actually have a measurable, to know if you're winning and losing, I think in business is a big deal, you know, and how to then deal with those definitely has been a challenge for me, like this year one of entrepreneurship, you know, and I don't know that I have a great like answer for it yet. Like, obviously we're still building and growing, and we're doing the best that we can, but just having awareness of like what those challenges, hurdles, obstacles are, so that then I can go back and say, well, this is my plan to overcome those things, just the same way that like I knew I was gonna have. I knew sometime, you know, whatever month it was gonna be during the season, I'm gonna show them, I was gonna walk 4 guys, and I was gonna suck. You know, like, well, what am I gonna do after that? I think right now where I'm at, I'm still trying to evaluate what those things are. You know, those challenges and obstacles. I'm too early into it right now to say like, oh, well, I know that's coming. How am I gonna? And to be honest with you, as far as like business development goes, I don't know that you're ever gonna feel like, because if you knew it was coming a year from now, like there's more things I can do now.
Well, the way I describe it, it's like it's kind of like a movie, where in a movie you have like the storyline and the plot, and then it's like it starts getting to that crescendo. But you know when it gets to the crescendo, you're like, something bad might happen here.
Yeah.
And entrepreneurship is no different than that. In the fact that there always is going to be challenges, no matter what stage of the game you're at, no matter what year. Andy Frisell talks a lot about what year of entrepreneurship you're in, like what room you're in. Are you in the year 1 room, the year 5 room, the year 10 room? They all have challenges. They're just different challenges that come up in the process. It's no different than being an athlete. You have different challenges, whether you're a high school player, whether you're a college player, whether you're getting drafted, whether you're in the big leagues, whether you just got sent back to AAA. It's all different challenges, but there's always going to be those obstacles in the way.
Yeah. How do you feel like those obstacles that you see now in your life, and like I said, it might be more of a hindsight thing. You're like, what those obstacles? How do you go about tackling those obstacles right now, like more on a daily basis?
For me, it's all about making sure that every single day I know I can stack up the small wins that are totally in my control. So for me, a lot of it has to do with my health and my fitness. That's the one thing that I know without a shadow of a doubt is totally in my control. We talk a lot about trying to educate people through content. That's another thing that's totally in my control. Continuing to do that every single day is completely in my control. Whether it hits, whether it doesn't hit, whether it does great, does terrible, reaches anybody, educates one person, educates 100 people. I can't control any of that, but I can control what I'm doing and what my daily activity looks like in each of those aspects.
All right, well, I appreciate you joining me today. That's all the time we got. If you guys like content like this, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Drop me a note in the comments what you thought about the conversation today. If you guys got any topics that you'd like addressed in the future, I appreciate you coming out here today too. I think we might get a little workout in here after.
Yeah, let's do it,
maybe.
man. Let's do it.
I asked him as soon as he got here if he brought his glove. He said hasn't thrown in too long. So
that glove's deep in the closet.
I don't blame you. All right, buddy. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming out. It means a lot. Keep doing your thing, and the financial game is changing for sure.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah.